Hello, everybody. I'm Joe McGovern, awards reporter here at TheWrap, and we are happy to have you for this presentation of the Oscar qualifying short film showcase with the filmmakers of Beyond Silence, Butterfly on a Wheel, Shimmer, The Pearl Comb, and Transferable. We're going to show you the trailers, a trailer package actually for all the films. Then we're going to go into a conversation with our guests. And to the audience, please take part in the live chat of the stream, share your thoughts, and let us know where you're tuning in from. Now, here are the trailers for our 5 short films.
Eva, ik dacht dat je wilde komen praten over je studie. Maar je zegt niets hierover.
Heeft u kinderen? Een dochter?
Did you go in the hall?
I did.
Did you play it?
I did not.
I've watched you grow up your whole life, man. I've seen all the challenges.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
It's the challenges that make you, you. That's what makes you special.
They say that change, real change,
Hi.
only happens when the pain of staying the same gets bad enough.
Es una bomba de tiempo, Mati.
El faro no es uno más de sus juguetes. ¡Lo logramos!
There's been a lot of controversy surrounding this investigation. But what we do find magical is that you healed a boy of consumption. You may be the only person to do so successfully. What we want to know is what treatments you...
No treatments. It's a gift from my late husband.
Carry me out to sea, and I will make you rich and glorious for life.
Mine, mine, forever mine. Farewell, farewell for years of 9. In return for the comb, your blood will be mine. Mine, mine, forever mine.
Welcome back. It is my pleasure to introduce the writer and director of Beyond Silence, Marnie Block.
Hello.
Hello. The writer, director, and composer of Butterfly on a Wheel, Trevor Morris. The director of Shimmer, Andres Palma, and the executive producer of Shimmer, Andres Buzo.
Hi. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, guys. The writer and director of The Pearl Comb, Ali Cook.
Hi. How you doing?
And the writer and co-director of Transferable, Jacob Gardner.
Hi. Thanks for having
Hi,
me.
everybody. Thank you so much. This is going to be great. I think people who have a chance to dive into these movies are really going to enjoy them, be challenged by them, and as I was. What I'd like to do, maybe to begin with, I mean, it's typical to sort of have each one of you give us a short summary of what your film's about. But what I was thinking to drill even a little deeper is to talk about the titles. I think that two of these titles are translated from their original language, maybe three. But if perhaps if because I found while watching them, when I finished the film and looked back at the title, somehow the whole film experience made more sense to me, kind of clicked in. Perhaps Trevor, if you want to start with the title of your movie and why that really does illustrate what the film's about.
Yeah, I'm Trevor Morris. My film's called Butterfly on a Wheel. Butterfly on a Wheel, the title specifically, is actually from a poem from 1736 by Alexander Pope, and it's a riff on that poem. It's shown up in movies and song lyrics and prose over time. If you've ever heard the term, the wheel breaks the butterfly. It's actually a poem about torture, which is kind of weird, which is not what my movie's about. But what I took it as is this metaphor for the human condition, which is what my movie explores, which is using an enormous amount of energy to accomplish something very small. And this is kind of what we do as human beings. We get in our own way quite easily. We're very good at it for some reason. So the butterfly in the wheel was this fragile thing that desires transformation, and this heavy wheel which is there to try to crush it, obviously. So it's really my riff on the metaphor of the human condition, that we put a lot in our own way and put a lot of energy into getting in our own way. And my movie's about removing that barrier, that boundary.
Your movie stars a young man. It's set in Toronto, which anyone who's been to Toronto will recognize that great city. You really do beautifully showcase it. And a young man who we find out very early, in fact, in the first minute of the film, that he suffers from OCD.
Among other things, yeah. This story is basically about a gifted musician with OCD and anxiety and other neurodivergent type things, quite simply trying to get out the door and make his way through the world. And his longing is for human connection, like we all do, and to get over a childhood trauma of playing his music live for other people, which is the thing that's in his own way to fulfill his dreams. It very much is a love letter to Toronto. It's the city I love, the city I grew up in. And as terms of a filmmaker, Toronto is shot as a double for New York, and New York and Chicago and other cities quite often. It's rarely shot for itself. So I wanted to showcase the city that I love in ways that's never been shown before, which I think we accomplished. And certainly the Torontonians love it because it really does shine a light on that beautiful city.
Yeah. And one other thing, you've won a couple Emmys in your career for your work as a composer. What prompted this within the last few years? This shift into writing and directing.
That's a big question. Basically, between COVID and then we had the Hollywood writer strike, and then we had the DEI initiative, the entire landscape of Hollywood changed in the course of a few years. But moreover, for me, mid to late COVID, I mean, COVID was hard for everybody, but it really took me down. Like I was on my knees for like a year. And out of this dark place, trying to come up out of it, my therapist, my counselor said, I want you to start journaling and I want you to write down the first memory you had that's positive, the first, really warm, positive memory. And for me, it's sitting in my grandmother's lap and her playing Puff the Magic Dragon on piano for me. And that began this journal entry, which began the screenplay. And then the screenplay was an exploration of myself in a way and neurodivergence. And I got to the end and I said, really, I'm the best candidate to direct this, with one small detail: I don't know how to direct. So I kind of went in my autodidactic way down the rabbit hole for a year and taught myself directing. And that's sort of how it came to pass, to be honest.
Well, we're very happy. It's certainly a quite an accomplished job. I want to move over to Marnie, who has made a film that's about what it means to not speak up, and it's called Beyond Silence. Tell me about your movie and thinking again about the title and the significance for us of the title.
I think I find titles very difficult to come up with. And so this one was already in English, although I first really looked for a Dutch title because I thought it's a Dutch short, so I want to have a Dutch title. But if you translate Beyond Silence in Dutch, it's something different, because silence in English can have two meanings, and in Dutch it doesn't. And actually, first, when I wrote the script, the title was Shamed into Silence. But then when I had shot the film and I saw it, I thought, well, but I've been looking at that. So don't give me the title in the end to something that I've been looking at all the time. So that's why I came up with something else. And it has to do what comes beyond what there is. There is life beyond silence. And that is, well, it's a metaphor for the deaf girl who's in my movie, because it's about a deaf girl who wants to address the abuse of her professor. But yeah, that's basically it.
Your film I watched twice, and I liked it the first time, but what I wanted to do was to almost reread the material a second time, and it did prove very valuable for me doing that, because suddenly certain one of the characters shifted. The character of the older, she's not old, the more mature woman. Yeah. When you were making it, how much was that part of your design, that this film was going to be digested by the audience slowly, even though it's a short, and it was going to require us to think about what we're seeing after it's over?
I think from the beginning, what I tried to do is I tried to put two generations up against each other, because after Me Too happened, there was this backlash from an older generation, women my age and older, who sort of thought that the whole movement was prudish, humorless, one-dimensional, and they warned young women or women who came up with their stories on victimhood, like, it will make the woman weak again. And I thought it was such an inappropriate reaction, because I thought, first of all, people come with their stories and now we're shutting them up again. And also I thought, well, if you're raped or abused, you are a victim. That's not weak, that's a fact. And then speaking up is also not weak, it's actually quite strong. So that was one of the reasons I really wanted, because it's not a movie about Me Too, it's a movie about two generations.
Yeah.
And so I had, well, yeah, so for me it was already everything with the older woman and where she goes through was completely in the script. And it was even more in the script in the beginning, because I had a whole audio thing going with her. So she would go back in audio in her memory of what happened to her. But that was far too much for me. I took it out already before I started shooting, because I thought, you have to sort of, I like it that you say I had to see it twice, because it's sort of, you have to also find your way in, and you're not sure what's happening with the woman, which I think is actually, and that's also why I wanted to shoot it in real time, so you can go with the whole conversation and the struggle and the doubt and the fear and the shame, everything.
Yeah, it's set in real time, as you say, in an office at a school, and wanted to ask about this. Well, I guess you could say the lead, the most important actress is Henriette Jansen.
Henrianne Jansen, yes,
Henriette
very.
Jansen. She's amazing, and tell us how you found her for this, and obviously how crucial it was to have an actress who was deaf playing a deaf character.
Yeah, well, but we don't have deaf actresses in Holland. I knew that already, but I knew that I only wanted to shoot it if I could find somebody who was deaf. So I knew I had to go and do auditions. But before I started that, somebody introduced me to Henrianne. And so I decided to have a talk with her, with an interpreter, of course. And we talked for about 2 hours. And then I just decided to do it with her, to just go. And she never played before, ever.
Jeez.
Yeah, but I thought, if I really invest time, and that we spent so much sessions at our kitchen table at home, just investing in each other, I thought a lot about my life and why I needed to make this. And I felt in that first conversation, she could relate to the subject. So yeah, then we started just working, and I never wanted to rehearse the script with her, but I together with the actress who plays her sister, we talked a lot about what acting is about, how you get there, and that's for everybody different. So you have to find your way. And having been an actress myself, I knew also that acting has a lot to do with enabling someone else to act. So, and I knew I had two very good actresses on set, Tamara and Sigrid. So I knew they were going to help her.
Yeah.
But I have to say honestly, when I drove to set with my DOP in the morning, the first day, I said, I'm not really sure what I'm going to get. But, we'll work around it if she doesn't deliver and have the other two. But that were all worries that I could set aside because Henrianne delivered big time.
Oh, she's great. It's
Yeah.
so important. I want to move over to Ali Cook, and I mentioned that you're the writer and the director of The Pearl Comb. You also are an actor by your by trade. That's your profession, and you appear in this film as well. There's actually a few of these films that you could categorize as sort of genre films, and yours is sort of a Victorian Gothic fantasy horror comedy. Tell us about it, and about, again, I guess that the title is obvious in this case. It's a comb, a hair comb.
Yeah,
that's in the film.
Well, it's the title comes from, it's called The Pearl Comb, and it's based on old legends from Cornwall. There was a family in Cornwall called the Peller family, and this is sort of before general practitioners. The whole family basically were the healers of Cornwall. And the legend goes that they received a pearl comb from a mermaid that gave them the power to heal. And that was one of the original inspirations for the tale. But as I did more digging and delving, and when the story started to get a lot more interesting, I found out that a lot of the healers were women, and quite often they were highly qualified, borderline doctors or were doctors. And they would come up with these fairy tales to get away with being a doctor. Because in those days, the general public did not like educated women. And so that's when the story got born, basically. And so that's where it comes from. It's set in Cornwall. So that's where we get that kind of rugged landscape from. And of course, it is a period drama. So I could really go to town with the production design and the costumes.
Yeah. And when you were writing this, did you really? The film has the feeling of something that was born out of an imagination that just was let to go wild. There's some great twists in the film.
Yeah, I mean, so I actually originally was a magician on British TV for many years, and my hobby was the history of magic. So I actually moved over because from into scripted stuff, because my old producer he worked in entertainment, and then he invented some of Britain's biggest comedy series. And then he told me to get into scripted and to take up acting, and that's where the sort of the inspiration originally began. But I'm a huge fan of people like David Lynch, where they sort of create a completely different world where something profound can happen, but there's also the imagery that you can use can just really invite people into that world, and that they are literally mesmerized for the 20 minutes that they're watching. And that's one of the things I try to pull off in the film.
Yes, very very well done. It's quite an experience to get all the way through that 20-minute journey up until the very end. I want to talk to the two Andres about Shimmer. And Shimmer as a title is interesting because that's a translation. This is a Mexican film from Spanish, which I guess could have been you could have gone a couple different ways with the English word for it. It means brightness, basically. But tell us about the title, and then again another movie that yours has three characters, one location, basically one location. I mean, it's a fantastic location. This animated film. Tell us about the making of it and this title.
So the title was tricky to land in English.
Yeah.
The title in Spanish is Fulgores, and there's not an easy translation for it in English because Fulgores means blazing light that is also short-lived. So it's both intense and fragile, and it's not an easy thing to find in English. Something that can be appealing, that can draw your attention in, but that can also go away at any moment. And it was crucial because light is in many ways a fourth character in the film. Each of the characters has a source of light that is both fascination and hope and dream for them, that they hold on to, and that the other characters at one point or another turn off. The father figure has a massive lighthouse, and the daughter has some rescue flares, and the little kid Matias has spotlight. Pocket light.
Yeah. Yeah, like a little flashlight.
Exactly, a flashlight. Yeah. And a lot of the story revolves around their relationship to these lights, and it's just the thread that ties them together and that eventually breaks them apart. So it was really important to me to get a title that reflected that sense of importance for the light in the film.
I watched the movie on a smaller screen, unfortunately, because I can only imagine what it must be like to see this thing on a big screen. Did you film it with the intention of making it in 3D?
Well, yes, precisely because of the importance of the light. If we hadn't needed the light to play such an important role, other techniques, maybe 2D, would have been viable. But it was always thought to be made in 3D, and it's also a medium that I'm comfortable working with, so it made a lot of sense in that regard.
And could you also just comment on the sort of animation community in Mexico and what is emerging from there in terms of breakthroughs like this film in terms of technology and animation?
Do you want to take a stab at that one? Go. Well, animation in Mexico it always seems to be on the verge of breaking through. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of very gifted artists, and every once in a while they gather together and a feature gets made or a special project emerges, and then follow through is hard to come by, and the group dissolves. A lot of them move abroad, to the US, to Vancouver recently, to Europe, and we have to sort of start again. For me, I've always worked here. I never really wanted to leave. And it feels a bit like working in the Wild West, where there's a lack of structure in many ways, and a lack of infrastructure as well, but a lot of freedom and opportunity as well, if you can find it and take it. So there's a lot of contrast if you're working in the Mexican animation industry. I was recently in a panel with some friends, and they basically sat us in a row from the most pessimistic one to the most optimistic one, which was myself. And you could see the difference of experiences that we've all had working in the animation industry, with some bitterness justified in one end because it can be rough. And then on the other end, for me, I couldn't imagine working anywhere else. So it's a very different spread of experiences for all of us here.
And for Andres Buzo, where would you be in that seating chart?
No, I mean, I have always been optimistic too. So the thing about trying to do a project here in Mexico of this, I mean, it's a short, but it's really it's hard to get one of these projects up. So yeah, I think for me, I have to be optimistic about it, and we're trying to make a space where we can do these kinds of projects and get even bigger projects ahead. But it's always hard when the whole industry around you it's falling apart every several years. So yeah, I mean, we're trying to be part of the change and part of the studios that get more projects, and so people stays here and has continuity in their jobs, and that's going to help a lot, I guess.
Yes, well, I mean, and certainly this film, uh, and uh, and just the level of artistry and impressiveness of it is going to help. Wanted to talk to Jacob, the writer and co-director of Transferable. Transferable, which after you see the movie, you're going to know right away what that title refers to. But can you tell us? I mean, it's a strange thing to say about a short film that I don't really want to spoil the plot, but if you can, how much you can talk about in terms of what it's about.
Sure. So if we're trying not to give anything away, I'll try to be careful, but it ultimately it explores one family's experience in a world where there is a terminal illness that can be medically transferred to another human being. And so that I guess I'm already kind of giving too much away, but it's a very personal story to me. There was a time where my wife was going through a very serious illness. She's better now, but I remember thinking that I wish I could just take it away from her, even if for a day, so she could be who she is again, because it was all consuming. And so that was the seed of the idea. And then crank it to 11. What if that world existed? What if there was a deadly illness that you could actually transfer to somebody else, and how that feels like something that is universally accessible. I feel like everybody can relate to seeing a loved one go through something that they wish that they could help them with.
Yes.
And then, and to your question about how that relates to the title, Transferable was always a working title that described the project, and we thought we'd come up with something better later. As time went on, we found that it was actually working really well, and it is intriguing enough to, I guess, hopefully make you want to sit and watch what's going to happen. But then I've had so many people tell me that they get wrapped into the story so much, they stop thinking about the title. Then it plays out and the title shows up on screen and they go, oh, Transferable. And as you said, you understand it once you've seen it. So I like that has that effect. I think that's cool.
Your film has no dialogue in it. It's an animated film. There is no dialogue at all. Was that always part of the design, or did that develop from the concept?
It was always part of the design, and I'm not sure if that's my fear of writing dialogue or if that's my love for trying to show performance without the need to say anything. And it's probably both. So I like that challenge of trying to communicate with the audience without having any characters actually say anything. And there's a great challenge in that, and something we want to push ourselves in.
And like actually several of the other films in this group, yours is set in basically one room. It's an animated film, obviously, but can you talk about the art direction of it, because it's very startling when we see it.
Yeah, so one room written that way because it all takes place in one specific area for a specific reason, but we didn't feel we needed to branch out, and also costs associated with animated films. When you make a new location, you're building everything from the ground up. So keeping it in one room was actually cost effective too. But the art direction, we wanted it to be like um, it's late at night, so it's very dark, and then towards the end it becomes morning. So there's a stark contrast in lighting. But in terms of the style of the art, because it takes place in a world that's very much like ours, where arguably someone could say, why not just make it in live action? Because they're all human people in a world that is just like ours. We wanted to make the art very different so that it didn't feel like we were trying to recreate reality. We wanted it to be very painterly, so that though it's dealing with grounded natural subject matter, it still looks very stylized.
Yeah, exactly. I have another question for all of you, and I'll kind of go in reverse order this time, starting with Jacob. These are short films. I don't know. I don't even know if there's a definition for what length defines a short film. I think some people say that feature films are 40 minutes or 60 minutes or whatever. But Jacob, yours is the shortest of these five. It's about 8 minutes long.
Yeah, that's right.
I think Trevor, yours is the longest with maybe it's 30 minutes, including the credits at the end. So maybe 20,
33, I think.
33. So I wanted to ask about kind of almost like it would almost be like asking a short story or a even a a longer piece, a feature film director. How do you sculpt your vision so that it ends up being, for example, 8 minutes in the case of Transferable?
I like the mental exercise of trying to remove everything that you possibly can and see if you can get away with that. So if it's not serving a purpose, how much of it can you take away, and what you're left with is hopefully the best version of the story. So maybe that's why ours is the shortest, but that's a mental exercise that I really enjoy. It's how much can you take away?
And to ask the same thing to the others, like for Andres, your film's about 18 or 20 minutes long. What how did you settle upon that? What was it like? 'Cause, again, animated film, lots of concept art, lots of storyboards, I would assume, went into the pre-production.
Well, it's a similar answer to Jacob's. I don't know who said the original quote that perfection is achieved not once there's nothing left to add, but once there's nothing left to take away. But I think it's the kind of thing you need to do, and it would apply to features as well. That you need to be efficient, and you need to be careful that anything that you still have in there in the final edit makes sense and needs to be there. Because if you take it away, then the story sort of falls apart. Um, when it came to Shimmer, it helped that the first thing that inspired the story is a short story by George Saunders that's called Sticks, that is just 2 paragraphs long. And it by now, if you read that story, it bears very little resemblance. There's sort of a mean father character in it as well, but that's about it. But it really helped keep the whole thing in a format that was still feasible, in terms of production and in terms of the resources that we could actually use to make it, because we had to be very efficient as well in that regard.
Yeah, yeah. Same question to Ali, and your movie's also about 20 minutes or so long, but it has a classical structure
Yes, yeah.
within those 20 minutes.
I mean, I always think keep the DOP out of the edit is a great way to keep a short film on the tighter side, because they love to throw in a sunset or something.
They want the beauty of their vision.
And I had an amazing DOP and everything looked beautiful, so you end up having to be absolutely ruthless. But I find that I think we all have that idea that elegance comes with brevity, but it takes a long time to realize just what you can chop out, and it's I would get to that point as much as I can, and then I would refer it to the producers. I kept the producers out of the edit so they wouldn't see too many versions. So then when they did come in, they could be even more ruthless. When I got to the final edit, I then found another 4 minutes to trim. So yeah. And it's the old thing about it's a horrible thing having to take some of these lovely shots away and all the rest of it. But I also, for me, with the script, I try to be very ruthless with the script up top, and I also rehearsed a lot with the actors before we shot anything. Sometimes people don't have that luxury, but I managed to do quite a few rehearsals just back in London before we went to shoot it, and you can just see where things aren't needed. And because like everyone else, we're on tight schedules, you get in knowing what you need, and really sticking to that. I think the only time you can riff around maybe is if you're doing a lot of improv comedy.
Right.
But when you're doing a fantasy film, you really got to be on it. Yeah. Otherwise, confusion isn't magic, as the old phrase goes. You've got to be absolutely ruthless with the plot.
Exactly. Yeah. Marnie, for your movie, again, I'm sure it was a tight schedule, and you probably benefited somewhat by knowing that it was going to be in real time, essentially.
Yeah.
But even you mentioned, just before that you in an early concept, you even had more. You had the thoughts of one of the characters that we'd be privy to. What was it like to get it where it is now, which is about 20 minutes?
It's 70 minutes. I didn't have the thoughts. I had an audio with sounds from way back that would
Right.
come back. But I really like the exercise of trimming it down to really strip the script more and more and more. I do like dialogue. I love dialogue, so I had to really hold myself back. But because we're working with a deaf person, she is of course very much her vision is very important for her. So we tried to work a lot with that, and there is said a lot in the movie, but there's also a lot that is not said. So I really tried to write the script on that, actually, on the things that were not talked about. And it was my very first time directing. So, and then you write differently, because then you think, okay, so but I have to do it as well on set. So what do I really want? Like I really had to be precise. It was a humbling thing as well, as a writer, everything behind your laptop is perfect. The actors can do it all. You have all the time of the world. The light is there. And I literally had 3 days and I had 7 hours a day because of the lighting, because it was in the wintertime. So I had to do it in 21 hours. And I had a deaf person on the set. So you have a lot of time with the interpreter as well. So yeah, I knew that as well, that was going to happen. So I really stripped it down. But it's a very interesting, what you said, interesting exercise in your head. And it forces you to be so precise.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's great.
One other question for you also was curious to ask about working with your cinematographer on Beyond Silence. I think I noticed, at least from the credits, a very female-led crew, it looked like. And I haven't seen your work by your cinematographer before, but I certainly will look for her name.
Yeah, she's wonderful. I'd looked through all her work for a series that I'd written. I wasn't going to direct it, but with the director, I said, let's please look at her work. And I didn't wanted her because she was a female. I just wanted her because of her work. And basically, it turned out that the heads I wanted to work with were all female. It's not like it was a quota that we needed to get. Really not. And the only guy was my composer. But she is, what I really like from her is that she has a very sharp eye. She's very sensitive. But she's also able to work with what happens while you're there. And that's what it was my first time directing, but I thought, what I really like is that the director that the script is very precise. The director knows what he or she wants, and then there is space for actors to make it their scene. Although the text is there and everything, and then when something happens, she is very sharp. So that's what I really like from. She has a documentary eye, something like
For
that.
sure. Yes, very much so.
And
Thank you.
also, I mean, I could make this movie because she was the one on set that was going on and on and on and on. And I postponed directing because I thought, I was an actress, then I started writing, and I do not know enough about lenses yet and everything. And she said, okay, but tell me what you want to see, tell me what you want to feel, where do you want to be, and I'll translate it into the lenses and everything.
Exactly right. That's what she's there for. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she's obviously great based on this work for sure. And
Yeah.
to talk to Trevor about the editing of your movie. Your movie has beats in it where we are introduced to two other characters. How did was it always conceived to sort of land at about the running time that it ended up as?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I mean, I can't wait to see Jacob's movie at 8 minutes. That's incredible feat, in my
Yeah.
opinion. But I think that Christopher Nolan famously said, one of my filmmaking heroes, to make a short film with a beginning, a middle, and an end is actually more difficult than it is in a feature, which I agree with. Just having finished my follow-up feature, and I think it's just my years as a composer feeling the journey of a beginning, a middle, and an end as a classic, almost a 3-act narrative structure. There's also a lot of music in my movie. There's more music than there is dialogue in a funny way. So it wasn't that I went out to make a half an hour movie or something like that. It's kind of also our character, because I was very, very aware of portraying OCD on screen. I had a great consultant from Toronto, who's our on-set and actor consultant. He was my target audience. I wanted him to watch this movie and go, yeah, that's kind of what life looks like if you're that's one of the things that you carry with you. And our character needed to sort of, for the audience, to layer and layer and layer his day, just, and his experience and his disappointment in himself for it to pay off at the end. And it really needed time, because he desperately wants these things, and then he gets close to having them, and then he gets it in his own way, which is what we talked about earlier, which we're very good at as humans, and then kind of has a healing journey. And not that it has a nice bow on it at the end, but it's left with the feeling of possibility that he might just be able to sort of live with his self and embrace his authentic voice, and the future looked a little bit brighter. And it just took time to say that story, I guess, and to have the musical set pieces that are in there, which are a couple minutes each. I mean, there's probably 7 minutes of just musical scenes in the movie,
Right.
alone.
What is your upcoming film called?
I've been instructed not to say because I'm here at AFM trying to sell it, but I can tell you it's a slow burn mystery thriller set in swampy Florida, which is a departure from.
Very nice.
Yeah, super cool. And someone was mentioning, one of you, I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was, about the world building, certainly in animation, which I love, the door animation, I'm from Canada, so Florida might as well be Mars to me. And so I love the idea, like, it's true, even sequels, we come back for the characters, we come back for the world of Harry Potter or Star Wars or whatever your thing is. The world of South Florida is a very interesting world, and it's completely foreign to me. So I get to look at it tabula rasa, in the sense that I get to go, oh, that's interesting to me, and to bring us into this experience and use the heat and the sound of nature, which is overwhelming there at times, as part of the journey, which suits me as a kind of an audio guy,
Will there be any alligators on screen?
Oh, absolutely.
I hope so.
Yeah.
So I have one last question for everybody, and it has to do with, the fact that these are all Oscar qualified shorts, meaning that they've been seen in front of audiences. I'm assuming, at festivals. A lot of them have been seen at, dozens of festivals. Maybe beginning with Jacob, can you just describe what it's been like to feel, to get the feedback from an audience, and how that's been, I'm sure, satisfying, but also sort of challenging to realize how an audience sort of takes in and interprets your work.
Sure. I think that's a really interesting question, especially for me with my background is as an animator on feature animated films for a while. And so sitting in the audience there, you get a lot of audience feedback when people are laughing at the right times. Uh, but with this film, this is our studio's first original short. And so I had the honor of being at one of the festivals that we were a part of, and the room is just silent because it's a drama. It's very heavy. You don't have people laughing at the right times. If they are laughing, then you did something wrong in this one. So there's very little audience feedback when I'm in the room with them, which is terrifying and also a very different experience. But the people that come up to you afterwards, it feels like it's touched a lot of people, and there's a lot of people that can relate to the situation. And that is important to me. And I've had people tell me that they keep thinking about the story days or weeks after, and I think that's perfect for me. That's everything I would ever want, is that they keep thinking about it, and that they've had to have conversations with their significant others about what they would do in this situation or anything like that. So that's been the audience experience journey for me.
That's terrific. And I want to ask the same question to Andre and Andres about those lucky people who have seen your movie in a theater and been able to talk to you after.
For me, the experience of sitting in the theater is always, the first part is a little nerve-wracking. And it's also difficult because it's something that I've seen so many times. I was the editor on the film as well, so I've seen it over 1,000 times by now, and it's hard to see it again in that sense. But after it's over, you get to step out and meet the people that saw it and see who it touched and see who connected with the material, and it's incredibly rewarding. That is really fantastic as a creator, just to know that some people engaged with it and felt the same things that you wanted them to feel when you made it. Some of the guys come up to me and said, "Oh yeah, this hit me right in my daddy issues," and to me it was like gold. Okay, like perfect, you got it, everything that I wanted out of this. Or that they identified one of the characters and that they were drawn to it. Yeah, that is always incredibly rewarding, even if the experience of sitting in the theater for me is not as pleasant anymore. But that's just because I've seen it way too many times.
Yeah. You know, all of your 5 movies have a sort of a life goes on quality about the ending, but especially Shimmer does. Are there people who you talk to afterwards who really want to know more?
Yeah, I've had a lot of questions of whether we wanted to turn this into a feature, or saying, but I really wanted to know what happens to the kids, or what comes next.
The labyrinth.
Yeah, and the original version that I first wrote ended even earlier. I'm glad we added that last bit of time, because then otherwise I think it would have been too unsatisfying in regard. But that is a question that we get frequently in that sense, and it's great. It means that they connected with it and they wanted to know what happens to the characters, and that they were left emotionally engaged to them in some fashion.
Yeah, and I also think that the film has a lot of symbolism. So when you see audiences reacting and understanding what we wanted to portray, that's really satisfying, I think.
There's we have another Avatar movie coming out soon, but I just want to say that, and I'm a big fan of Avatar, but there's a depiction of a whale in your movie that is just as spectacular.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
We can
there
actually
it is.
show it here.
Oh, wow.
We're ready for this question. Yeah, the way the fish treaters, we spent a lot of time and a disproportionate amount of resources on them. Figuring them out was not easy. They went through a lot of versions because we wanted them to feel both attractive and terrifying at the same time. It was one of those dreams that could lift you up or digest you whole, and we wanted them to have that sort of symbolism and that shape and presence into the screen. They were designed by a Mexican designer called Francisco Resendiz, who made a terrific job on them. The whale, the one that's here, I actually got to sculpt it myself in 3D. Not this one, but the one in 3D. And sadly, we had to scrape it because we had a design that we needed it to open the mouth like it was a circular design. And this one hinges, this one, the jaw hinges in a different way. So we went through a lot of iterations until we got it working, and we're really proud of it.
You should be, yeah. I mean, it has lots of texture and obviously light. It's a creature of light, basically. To ask Ali about your experience with audiences, you know, they have to be satisfied with this film, but what has it been like chatting afterwards?
Oh well, yeah. I mean, it's a very epic film, you know, and it has a few laughs, and it has two very big jump scares. And of course, the very first time I ever showed it, predicting how to get it's hard enough to get jokes to land within a script, but then having to do that as well as suspense and then as well as the big scares. So the first few times I watched the film, especially because I was on in England and in Finland in a completely different country in the same weekend, and just seeing, I was very worried about there might be a difference between the cultures, but it managed to work. But I think the thing that really came through for me was when I was showing the film in Fantasia in Canada, and afterwards a group of nurses came up to me and they said they'd never felt they'd been taken seriously in their profession. So here is a film about a female doctor not being taken seriously, and they absolutely loved it, and it really resonated with them. So it was such a nice feeling. And someone else told me that in America, women weren't allowed to be surgeons until 1970. So it's just it's astonishing that it was only ever it's not that long ago that these mindsets actually existed.
Yeah.
So yeah, particularly at Fantasia, when I found out that those reactions, it's quite incredible.
Yeah, I mean, and it's amazing that those kind of reactions are valid, even though your movie is basically a genre film.
Yeah, yeah. Well, obviously the secret is to try and have, the double story running at the same time, and so I think we managed to pull that off by getting those reactions.
And Trevor, what about you with this? Especially, I would say in all the screenings, but I would think particularly in Toronto when audiences have seen it.
Well, yeah, for sure. But screening with an audience, there's two parts to it actually, technical and emotional, and they inform each other. Is for you filmmakers out here, like I shot it on a large format camera with large format anamorphic lenses, really about this concert hall, this gorgeous concert hall that we elicited in Toronto. So to have it seen on a big screen was really how it was intended visually. And then Dolby Atmos, which is a core competency of mine, audio, and really the audio experience of it, to be heard in that way with an image projected on the screen was always the intended, experience, which amplifies the emotional part of it, which is something that I found, a lesson that I learned from script to completion. And it's not my quote, but I certainly have adopted, which is as a storyteller, that which is most personal is most universal. And what that means is when you're writing your screenplay, you have to have the courage and really to go all the way down a road, to be as emotionally vulnerable as you can, whether it's a character based on yourself or not, doesn't matter. And that personal universal connection, when you're making, you're like, you wonder what anyone's ever going to get the thing that you're trying to relay. It's so in your mind crystallized. But I would go to screenings. I have to tell you, man, grown men would come out crying and hugging me and saying, I felt seen, which is what the movie's really about, is if there is one universal human condition, it's, I think, all of our desires to be seen for who we really are, which is what this movie is really about. And the response has been overwhelming. I mean, beyond my wildest dreams in terms of the emotional response of people who have nothing to do with music. They don't have OCD. And it's not even about that. It's about the fact that someone basically sought out their authentic voice as a person and got seen in doing so. And it just resonated, man. It was crazy, crazy amazing.
That's terrific. Just wonderful to hear that. And Marnie, finally to ask you. I mean, I think a few of the filmmakers, including Trevor, have talked about that experience of having people feel seen by the work. I mean, I just, of all these five, I can't imagine that wouldn't be more true for your film.
Yeah, it's actually pretty bittersweet because
Yeah.
I got the festivals I went to. A lot were in America, and I'm in Amsterdam, so I only was at Tribeca. But people also find me a lot via socials.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people come up to me also with screenings in Europe, where they share their stories. So it's very intense and a lot, and the stories are always pretty horrible. But so that's the bitter thing of it, that so many people can relate to it. That's amazing and horrible. But the wonderful thing is that so many people also said it's giving me the courage I need. I understand, because silence can be something that is very protective in the beginning, but it you violate yourself by taking your voice away, and not having a voice means not being able to participate, and that's a very basic human right that you take away from yourself. So, and then I had this one girl coming up to me, and she said, in tears, she said, I see a deaf girl without words saying what she needs to say. So now I'm there. I'm going to do it as well, And then I teared up myself. I think, oh, well, that's wonderful that people
Yeah.
please get that. So we decided also that we have to do an impact campaign. We're going through a lot of universities in the Netherlands because it resonates so much. Yeah, so that's cool. And it's funny, a lot of people came up to me saying, now what are they going to do, what's going to happen with the woman, who are the two? So I am busy
Yes.
thinking about a feature with this film literally as the first scene of the feature film. And
Wow.
yeah, and I saw that once in Whiplash. They had this
Yes, it
exact,
was. Yep.
yeah, it was a short movie, and then it became a feature. And I would love to see both path, what will happen, but I would love as well that in the end, whether it's going to be a revenge move or I don't know, but I would like the two generations to become allies. And so yeah, a lot of people
That's
ask me.
that's very exciting. Whiplash is a great. The movie Sling Blade, also the great movie Sling Blade from the '90s, was a short and then a feature. I think there's actually probably even more examples, and I would love to see this as a feature with the
Oh,
opening
thanks.
scene being the short.
Yeah, cool.
Uh, and also, I think that the reaction you get is interesting too, because it depends sort of on who members of the audience identify with in the film.
Yeah, the
Some of
funny thing
them.
is that a lot of men came up to me as well.
Hmm.
Because and some of them saying I've lived through it with my girlfriend or my wife, but also a lot of them said I had no idea. I really had no idea how heavy it is. And there is no violence in the movie. I didn't want to see. I didn't need to see the images of what happened. But I must say, I when I started researching on this, I don't know if you know the film Irrévisible from Caspar
Yes.
Noé, and I
Yeah.
never wanted to see it because there is a 9-minute rape scene in there. So I thought,
Yes.
well, why? Why do we have to see that? And it's violence, porn, and blah blah blah. So I never saw it. But then when I did research, I forced myself to see it, and I thought it's so good. It's like it's like this, and it's even worse. And just watch it. So
Yeah.
there's a so I'm with the feature. I'm struggling because it's not about the man at all. Actually, I don't want to. That's also why this man is not in this movie. Uh, but it was an interesting decision to make because a few male friends, filmmakers, said, "But you need those images in. Just put them in. It's so heavy." And I knew I didn't want it to, but well, we'll see what happens with the feature.
I wish you all the best of luck on that. Wish all of you the best of luck on whatever the future holds. It's very exciting to have 5 idiosyncratic and challenging and funny films and scary films being in conversation in this way. Thank you so much. Congratulations on all your work. And I also just want to say to everyone who joined us today, thank you. And be the first to know about upcoming screenings and get access to exclusive content and premium events by becoming a Wrap Pro member. You can join now and take advantage of a free trial. And for all screening information, including past screenings, please go to TheWrap.com and the events tab. See you next time.